What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Ham Radio Crash Course. Welcome to Saturday. It's my favorite time of the month. It is Patron Picks episode of the Ham Radio Crash Course. And this week, we're talking about making ISS ham radio contacts. We've had Sean Kutzko on before. We've talked about satellite contacts, all that fun stuff. But today, I'm going to focus just on the ISS. And I promise if I screw anything up, we'll get Sean right back on to correct me. But we'll have a lot of fun regardless. Appreciate everybody coming out, and we'll get started soon. Enjoy them memes. What is up? Cobain's in the house. My wife is in the house. Watch out. What's up, Andy? I saw your comments on DX Commander stream earlier today. We were talking about how you're in every live stream. Every live stream is Andy. All right, let's get things started here. Appreciate you guys coming out. And how's it going, everybody? Again, I am Josh, KI6NAZ. Thanks so much for coming out today again. Every Saturday, at least we try to. Ham Radio Crash Course, which, again, why are we doing all this? It's to explain ham radio, at least get people started, show people new things they might not have seen before, or just something that they were kind of curious about but didn't really have a lot of background information. That's what I try to do out here. That's what I do on my channel. So I appreciate you watching, appreciate the subs, and appreciate all those thumbs up. So thank you very much. And Vern, wow, Vern, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Really do appreciate that. Okay, it looks really nice, too, with all the other chats. All right, so kicking things off here, we got a couple of things
I know
to
for
hit.
A fact them radio waves is
right
harmful.
Up front. Kind of a happy Christmas thing coming up, or happy holidays. Ham Tactical, my wife runs our merch store, and she kind of went out there, and because of our podcast, she worked with a local coffee roaster to create a coffee blend or a coffee for us to provide to you guys called Give It the Beans. And there's a bit of a backstory here, and this came from the podcast. So basically, we got this email, and it told this incredible story about a ham that was trying to avoid a lightning storm. Literally, there was like lightning crashing around him on an ATV. And when we're getting to the pinnacle climax of the story, in him in his most dire situation, he goes, "And then I gave it the beans." And it's cracked us up so hard that it became kind of a staple of the podcast. And so now we decided, Give It the Beans coffee. So for everybody on the podcast, a bit of a shout out to you. So yeah, thanks, thanks again for that. It was a very funny thing when it happened, and we really do appreciate it. So anyway, okay. So basically what we're doing, I clicked the 4 bags, but you don't have to buy 4 bags at all. You can buy just 1 bag. It's $16. She grouped them so that they could be cheaper to ship. So if you've got a couple of friends that like coffee, this is all locally sourced. There is a farmer that the local brewer or local roaster, I always say brewer because of beer, local roaster works with. And so all locally sourced, ethically sold, that kind of stuff. So yeah, coffee will definitely improve your SWR. It may help your Morse code too. I can't give you positive confirmation on that. There was another request too to have a Ham Tactical gift card. So now that's there as well. So I guess you guys can get ready for the holiday season. Okay, enough of that. All right, so what are we talking about? Well, we're going to be talking about the International Space Station, right? We're going to be talking about how you can make a contact. And there is both human beings, which you know of on the International Space Station, as well as some automated systems at play that we're going to walk through how to make contacts with. So that's kind of the whole point of this episode. But before I get into that, I do want to go ahead and say another thank you to my wife. She gave me a beer today that I'm going to be enjoying. This is a Firestone Parabola. This is the 2021. I don't believe I've had one of these this year, which is an Imperial Stout, so it's a big boy beer. And yes, I've got a couple of radios set up there. If you notice that 705 above my head, you see the frequency changing? Watch as it's
I know for a fact them radio waves is harmful.
That radio is set up to my computer, and it is tracking the ISS. At least it's handling the Doppler change, which we'll talk about as we get through the slides here. But wanted to mention that, yeah, there's a lot of really fun stuff you can do. David Davenport, KY4GM, How many farts can that coffee add? Well, I don't know. Can we measure that in dB? One fart is 1 dB, 2 dB maybe? So maybe 2 farts. Let's go with 2 farts. All right, let me pour this one out because we're going to be talking about the ISS and ham radio, which is always a really fun topic. But there are some nuances that I hope I cover, and I know a lot of you will keep me honest in the chat as we go along. So big cheers to my wife. That's really awesome that we were able to work out the Give It the Beans coffee. So again, if anybody's interested in that, links in the description to hamtactical.com. Parabola. Ooh, that is a barrely beer. So keep that in mind as you go consider what type of beers you're like. If you're not into big, heavy beers, you may want to think twice about the Parabola. Anyway, let's move on. All right, making ham radio contacts with and via the ISS. Hopefully I will be able to clear that up a little bit as we go. It is Colombian coffee. The International Space Station is generally crewed by one or more ham radio operators, regardless if it is an international crew, Americans, a Russian crew. There's always generally a ham that's on board. The ISS itself has, I think it's 2 radios at this time. There's one radio that's in the Russian compartment, and that's generally when you see a lot of those SSTV weekends or events. It's largely because the Russians are up there and they're operating their radio. However, with those radios, they can operate a number of different modes in and beyond or above that of simple FM voice. So they can do, well, things we're going to talk about, like digital, like SSTV, like I already mentioned. It is uncommon, but you can still technically make contacts with the ISS crew, and the APRS website, which again is linked in the description, we'll talk a little bit about how you might want to game that, because there are free hours in a day that the crew and astronauts aboard the ISS can actually use the radio. Generally, they are free on the weekends to have a little bit of free time that they may go ahead and use the radio at those times. So that's when you might want to look out or be listening on the bands. If there's an ISS pass that's coming overhead on the weekend, you might be able to make a contact with the ISS, but it's pretty uncommon, the crew. But that doesn't mean there isn't more we can do. All right, so the modes of operation that the ISS supports as of this month, right, 2021, those watching this, the terminology will still be the same and the how-to will still be the same if you watch this much later down the line. Just know that there is a website. It's the first link in the description of the video that will tell you what the current configuration is of the ISS radio, and you should definitely depend on that if you have any questions. But they can do FM voice, which is our Earth transmissions to the crew. They can do crossband repeating, which is our Earth transmissions hitting the ISS and coming back down to Earth. Automated, it is a repeater, but crossband, which we'll break down that a little bit. They do SSTV transmissions, which is slow scan television. Slow scan television is basically an image. Think of Web 1.0 webcam websites I used to go to. Really slow to update images, or just a static image that they're sending down via the radio. They handle APRS packets and AX25 packets, which is a traditional ham radio packet type that you would use with a terminal node controller, or like into a Raspberry Pi to do something like packet BBSs. That was a thing. There used to be a packet BBS, bulletin board system, on the ISS. I believe it is now turned off, but even if it wasn't, it's not recommended that you use it. However, you're able to use what I would call simplex packet comms between Earth stations. So again, Earth to Earth. We're kind of using the ISS to relay transmissions. A lot of what I'm going to talk about you can do with the FM satellites, like SO50 and AO91. You can look up more information about them if you're interested, but the same techniques that we're going to be talking about, you can use for those satellites as well. However, there are some specific things for the ISS, such as you're going to need some equipment to make this work. Generally, it is recommended that while you can use a 5-watt handheld to make contacts to the ISS, you will want an upgraded antenna, though, if you are going to be using a handheld. There are plenty of videos that you can look up on YouTube where people are using their handheld to make contacts with the ISS. It's possible, no question. A little bit will depend on the type of pass of the ISS, which we will talk about. But generally, if you can get yourself a directional antenna, that's going to be a little more appropriate for making contacts and more consistent, particularly if you are going to be using a handheld. However, the ISS is running mobile radios. They're running Kenwood radios. So for those radios, we can be less concerned about running a bit more power. So if you run a 50-watt mobile radio all the way up to a 100-watt base station radio to talk to the ISS, you're probably okay. You don't necessarily need that much power, and as hams, we should definitely only use the power we need to make the contact, right? That's one of our primary rules that we try to follow. But you can keep that in mind that you're not going to cause a problem with other people making contacts. Maybe because it's FM and the capture effect, or not FM, but VHF, UH. No, it's FM. We'll talk about that as we go along. Capture effect is important and something to keep in mind, but a little early for that now. A couple of recommendations I have are the Aero dual band Yagi, because you will need a 2-meter element and 70-centimeter elements. Directional is preferred, so you can track the ISS across the sky because it is going to go across the sky. There's another antenna I didn't mention here in the slides, but Elk makes another antenna that is a log periodic instead of a Yagi UDA-based design. So keep that in mind. That's also a good one. Both these antennas are packable too. So if you are considering perhaps doing a SOTA activation, you can likely throw this antenna in a water bottle pocket and you can carry that up the mountain with you. And it'll not only help if there was a satellite pass or an ISS pass, you could point that down and do simplex VHF, UHF with it if you have a good Yagi. That's always valuable. A good handheld is always something nice, particularly if you're thinking about doing APRS on the ISS. But you can totally do ISS contacts with a Baofeng, right? You could use 2 Baofengs, one for 2 meters and one for 70 centimeters to give you full duplex capability. But that's a possibility. And that Aero antenna will come in 2 modes or 2 different SKUs. One has 2 antenna feeds, one for each band of operation. Again, it's a split band. It looks like a T. I have an image coming up for it. And one element set is going to be 2 meters and the other is going to be 70 centimeters. So there would be an antenna feed point for both. However, if you have the GOAT of FM satellite radios, which is the Kenwood D72, that is a full duplex handheld, and that will actually take 1 antenna feed point. So Aero Antennas actually provides an antenna that has what people get mad at me a lot when I say diplexer versus duplexer in this case. A lot of people say duplexer. The website says duplexer, but anyway, it basically takes the 2 feeds and combines them into one. And if a radio is full duplex, it can use both at the same time. Hope that makes sense. And yeah, a full duplex radio, really handy. What's full duplex? I was talking to somebody about this at work the other day, because something we work on, they were talking about full duplex, and they were like, "Well, I don't understand what's difference. What's half duplex versus full duplex?" And I was like, "Well, full duplex is your phone. So when somebody's just talking and talking and talking and talking, and you yell, 'Stop talking for a second,' and they can hear you at the same time they're talking, that's full duplex. Half duplex is where you key up the radio, nulling out or deactivating your receiver, not being able to hear until you let go of that PTT. That's half duplex. Well, HTs, at least some HTs, and a lot of mobile antennas or mobile radios will actually run full duplex, where you can be transmitting and listening to perhaps the other channel of the radio on a different band of operation. That's full duplex. All right, here is my Aero antenna connected to my Kenwood D72. That, again, full duplex radio. The Aero's kind of big, and it's got a little handle, foam handle at the end. And if you peel back that foam, there is actually a mount point for a tripod. So you could set this up in the field or set this up outside of your shack and run more power through it. That antenna will handle 150 watts. However, it is not recommended that you run 150 watts while holding it. Not really recommended. That's the bag that you can buy that's an accessory. By the way, I'm not affiliated with any of this stuff. I bought all this gear. This bag here just is kind of like the coolest looking thing when you throw that down on a table. In fact, if you watch the video I did with the Modern Rogue, when I put this on the table. They're like, that's kind of like a little sniper rifle kit or whatever. Can we do like a couple of shots where you like roll that out and we'll do like a whole thing? That was the opening they came up with. I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. But it is pretty cool. And those are all the elements in a little bag. All the seams are cut specifically for the elements. It's actually sold by the individuals that run Aero Antennas. Not a cheap setup, but a good one. And there's that D72. The picture on the right really shows off that time that I dropped it and then kicked it down my driveway shortly after purchasing it from the HRO in Anaheim. It was a really good day. You can see it says AO91L1. That's something we'll talk about later. That is a program or one channel for programming that I set for when I was running running for Doppler or handling Doppler. All right, so we're going to talk about how you make contacts, how you set up your radios and all that. But there's two main things I want you to always try and remember is that you need to turn off your receiver squelch. You need to have your receiver squelch turned off, and that you also need to know your grid square. What's a grid square? Well, there's a link in the description, but we're going to pull up the ARRL website really quick, and they have a whole thing on grid squares. But if you scroll down a little bit here, there is a link that says Maidenhead Grid Locator Converter. Which, that's the wrong one. That's going to give you that long. I clicked the wrong link. Where is it? I thought it was this. Oh, and the link doesn't work. Okay, we're going to do this a different way. Grid Square Locator. Live Googling. There you go. So if you type in like let's do zip code. How about that? 90703. That's mine. Don't tell anybody. So I am in Cerritos, right? Cerritos, California. So generally, when you're talking ham radio over satellites, over the ISS, it's going to be a quick call sign, your call sign, maybe the signal strength of the other side of your contact that you're making, and your grid square. So for me, it would be DM03. That was what I would say. And I would record them saying DM03. By the way, all of this, let's go back a step. Let's go back. We gotta go back. I want to make a note here. It may be hard to see in the picture on the left, but next to the D72 is an audio recorder, a digital audio recorder. I have a pass-through audio recorder, meaning all the audio in and out, in through the mic and out through, will get picked up. Actually, what's coming out of the radio will get picked up by that audio recorder. That way, I don't necessarily need to log the contact immediately, write it down or whatever. I have an audio recording for it. Newer radios like the FT5DR, even the ICOM 705 will do recording, although they're not full duplex. Keep that in mind. The recording is really, really handy. If you happen to be making a video and your speaker is loud enough, then that's probably something that you can work with just fine. So you can use your video recording, and a lot of people do that. All right, so if you want to talk FM voice to the crew when it is in operation for this, it's not always in operation for this. They often change it because they do different events. And remember, there's only two radios. So if they're doing SSTV, that means they're not necessarily going to be doing FM voice, right? So voice and SSTV downlink worldwide is going to be 145.80. That's the worldwide downlink frequency for their voice and the SSTV downlink. They have an uplink for the voice, and by the way, this can change, and the tones that they may or may not use will change as well. This is not really published information, but I'll explain as we go along a little bit. And there are different uplinks, and the uplink is going to be your signals going up to the ISS. So when we refer to uplink, we're talking about signals going up to the ISS, and downlink signals from the ISS or any satellite. We're going to use different frequencies for that depending on which region you're in. So if you're in regions 2 and 3, the Americas, the Pacific, and Southern Asia, you're going to use 144.49. And if you're in Europe, Russia, or Africa, which is region 1, you're going to use 145.2. Now, let's talk about this. I want to pull this up so I can show you. Okay, so when you go to the ARRS website, and I'll take you from home, actually. This is the better way of doing it. Taking you from home, go to General Contacts, Current Status of the ISS Stations. And this will tell you exactly what's going on, right, with the radios that are on the ISS. So the Columbus module radio is the IORS, which somebody's going to tell me what that means. It's interoperable radio system. Oh, did I get it? Is it interoperable radio system? I totally forgot. That is a Kenwood D710GA, and it is currently configured, meaning it's operating, and it's supporting crossband repeat capability, which is we're going to get to in the next slide. And those are the frequencies that it's supporting. And there it says what it's going to do. The next planned mode change is to packet operation, which is going to be 145.825 megahertz up and down. So simplex, same frequency for packet radio transmissions. And that's targeted December 9th after a school event. So what are they saying there? They're basically saying that that radio at some point is going to go offline, likely for a school event, and then when it comes back online, it's going to be in packet mode. But until then, until the 9th, meaning from now, the 4th, December, through to the 9th, you could potentially make a QSO with someone with the crossband repeater or the that radio that's running in crossband repeat mode. Okay, hope that makes sense. By the way, there is a pass that I think is like 30 minutes after my video, and we will talk about it at the end of the talk here. But the Discord after chat today, the first part about that, I'll be live on Twitch as well, is going to be trying to connect to it and see if anyone in the chat can make any kind of contact with each other or whatever. So very important when we get to the next slide here that you guys pay attention, because we're going to need to do some work. And note that for this voice portion, when you have your radio set up for voice, trying to talk to the astronauts, a lot of the times what you're seeing here may not be the case, because the radio could be set up for doing an event with a school, in which you've probably seen them. The amateur radio ISS APRS teams will go out to different schools, set up radio stations, and they'll have kids in very fast order go through and ask questions to the astronauts and the crew. And the radio is usually set up kind of specially to make that work, so people don't just hop on and try and ask their questions or try and make a QSO, get a pile up, if you will, for the astronauts. All right, so the crossband repeat function, this got started last year, I believe. It got brought up to the ISS in March, and it took till September until it was actually configured and running. Now, with this, you're going to have a different uplink frequency, and your downlink frequency is going to be on a completely different band. Okay, so you're going to be on 145.990 megahertz with a PL tone of 67. Very important. That is so that the radio, that radio on the ISS doesn't intermittently get activated by someone who's not trying to talk on that radio. So the PL tone helps out with that. So you're going to need to make sure that your radio has that tone configured and saved to a channel, so that when you key up, you're talking VHF, and when you let go, it flips over to UHF for listening. And again, that could be just as simple as your A channel is the talker and your B channel is the listener. It's fine to do it that way. If possible, though, a full duplex radio is nice. In the case of, again, going back to the Kenwood, because it's what I know the best, the Kenwood has a audio out jack. You audio out that into your ears, in your earbud, and you're literally going to hear yourself talking on VHF uplink, and you're going to be listening to the UHF downlink from the ISS or the satellite that you're trying to make a contact on, and you will hear yourself on the downlink, which is what you want. That's how you know you're making it. It's kind of like the reverse of how we will sometimes use the repeater tone when we unkey that courtesy tone. Well, that's the satellite version of it, or ISS version, that you'll hear yourself when it's going along. As always, though, with any satellite, with any of this stuff, everything I'm talking about, if you can't hear anything going on, right? If you can't hear people making contacts, if you can't hear something, anything, don't key up. What'll happen is you could have the transmit spot on, but there could be something wrong with your receive, and you could be just creating all kinds of interference on that satellite or the ISS on this crossband repeater while you're trying to listen on the UHF downlink, not realizing that you're creating all this interference. People saying, "No, yeah, we got you, we got you, we got you. Stop, we got you. Stop, we got you." So if you're not hearing it, the satellite or the ISS, don't transmit. Just wait, or wait for the next pass. Figure out what you got going on wrong. Something to note, too, you could be in an area where there isn't a ton of hams, and so there isn't just a crazy amount of traffic on both the crossband repeater or satellites. And the way you'll know if you are kind of hearing something, even if it's just noise, when you get your Yagi out, you will, if you've got a directional antenna, this is a lot easier to see. You can point at kind of the sky-ish area where the satellite is and point off of it, and there'll be a pronounced difference in the noise. I found that that's always my way of kind of knowing if I'm in the wheelhouse for as far as the receiving goes. All right, so as far as SSTV goes, this is, again, downlink from the that's supposed to be ISS. Downlink of SSTV data. It is going to be on 145.80. That's worldwide. I have had a ton of good luck with this. Basically, I will take an SDR into my computer. I run some software called SSTV, and I set it for PD120, and I just let it do its thing. I let it just sit there all night, plug it in, and I'll just let it run throughout the weekend on my 15-foot vertical antenna. That's right. I'm not running anything special if I'm doing SSTV. I don't get the most perfect images. If I wanted to do better, I could go out with my Yagi and kind of chase the ISS over the sky and get much better images. But if you want proof of concept, this is a really simple way to do it. PD120, though, just keep that in mind. Where's my images? Well, some of them got dropped, it looks like. I have varying degrees of success with this. The one on the far right, not the greatest. The one that's kind of in the middle is probably one of my better ones. And yeah, these are all just recorded off of my SDR here at the home. So if it's a straight vertical pass or a 90-degree pass or along the 90-degree side, when we get to that knoll, the middle of the pass, which is the vertical point of my antenna, we'll probably lose some signal there, but not a big deal. KF0HDU says, I appreciate you explaining this when I asked about it on the podcast. It helped a lot. Hey, thank you, KF0HDU. We're only halfway
I know for a
through,
fact
so
them radio waves is harmful.
On staying good. All right, so APRS, we're going to focus on the APRS side. If I wanted to do, we may need to make a follow-on video if you wanted to do just packet. I do have a video on how to set up APRS and a packet radio station. Those two things are not the same. They both are using packet AX25 protocols, but the setup and use of it is a very different thing. And using packet radio, traditional packet radio on the ISS, would take probably the whole chat or the whole live stream, a whole hour, to be able to explain how to do it and why you do it. And with that said, it's probably a pretty esoteric group of hams. Not esoteric, but a smaller minority than those that would be on APRS. Okay, so for the ISS, APRS, generally I use VHF for this, is going to be 145.825. That is the APRS frequency. It's the same for the transmit. It's the same for the receive. The difference, though, if you look at my APRS videos a couple weeks ago, two months ago, we talked about path. Path is wide 1-1 or wide 2-1, whatever. In this case, though, you need to make a special path for APRS. Once you have that path loaded and you start, again, it's really simple. This is actually the easiest place to start. If you're going to start with the ISS and you want to make some contacts with the ISS, this is probably where you should begin if you have APRS capability. Because you go outside with your Yagi. Even a tape measure Yagi will work because it's one band, so you build yourself a 2-meter tape measure Yagi. You go outside, and once you start hearing activity, like you start decoding packets, that means you're in the money house. You're in the what is it? Jupiter's in the money house? Oh, it's some astronomy thing. Anyway, if you start decoding packets, then you're good. Go ahead and transmit. That means you've got at least the receive side set up, and you are decoding packets, meaning you have your TNC turned on or whatever your radio is using to act as a TNC. And if you have got that packet or the path of APRS and you're using a directional antenna, you'll likely be successful. You'll actually beacon up your location and you'll show up on a map that is displayed on the APRS website, or you can link through the APRS website on where you were at, which is pretty cool. You can also send messages. So if you're going to go down this road, if you're going to be using an HT and also swinging a Yagi, it may be a good idea that you have some pre-canned messages just saying who you are, where you're at, hello to everybody listening, that kind of thing, which is kind of fun to do. Again, you only have like 9 minutes in the best case scenario to make a contact via or with the ISS, so it pays to pre-plan. I'll tell you, that's what I've learned across the years of talking to many a ham who is passionate about satellite communications. A lot of planning, and then it's go, 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 go. It's a blur, and then everybody's like, that was crazy. Now let's like unpack what we did, improve our process, and get a new kit or new configuration of our kit to be better. When in doubt, consult aris.org. And again, I've already showed you this, but again, whatever you're curious about doing, whatever it is you want to try and do, it needs to match what the current configuration is of the radios on the amateur radios on the ISS. So make sure that you are definitely going to aris.org and checking out what the current status is for those radios. Otherwise, you will have a bad time. This is just for reference, again, to my patrons. I drop slides to the patrons over on Patreon, so this will go there. It's just an easy little snapshot of some of the common frequencies that are used. All right, I'm going to talk about Doppler shift a little bit. This is really important with the FM satellites. Far more important with the FM satellites than it is with the ISS, but we're going to mention it for the purposes of explaining. So the ISS is moving really fast. In fact, I've already seen a lot of people mentioning 17,000 miles an hour. Yeah, very fast. And depending on where you are, right, and what kind of pass is coming over your head, it's going to look different to you, right? But regardless of how it's going to be within your horizon, it has a similar characteristic. There's going to be it coming closer to you, it being at the lowest point that it's going to be, kind of the center of the pass, and then it going away from you. That's kind of a way of thinking about it. At least that's how I use it. The way we call that is apogee on the beginning, and then perigee when it's closest to you. And in the case of you being the one trying to make a contact, that is the point in where it's either mid of its pass or directly overhead, which even if it's directly overhead and slightly cocked, like a 75-degree pass, it's still closest when it's at the point of coming towards you and then going away. At that middle point, that's its perigee. So the ISS can start at the horizon line over 2,000 kilometers away, depending on if you've got mountains or whatever, all that fun stuff. 2,000 kilometers away. But when it's overhead, it could be at its lowest 418 kilometers away. So if you consider what that means to your signal, well, you're going to have to, and as I kind of try and break this down, when the ISS comes up over the horizon at its 2,000 plus kilometer space, we are going to be tuning lower than the center frequency. So again, going back a step. Yep, don't look at that. There we go. So if we call the center frequency here 144, what's a good one? Where's the uplink for FM? The FM voice repeater, 145.800. Well, that's its center frequency when it's at its perigee. When it's farther away and coming at you, we need to be tuned lower than the center frequency in frequency. And then as it gets to perigee, we're going to be on center frequency. And then as it's going away, we need to tune up as it's traveling away from us. This is not something you have to do spontaneously and constantly. It's something that you gradually do as it goes through its pass across the sky. At most, if you're doing VHF, you likely will need 3 to 5 memory channels. That accounts for Doppler shift. You'll have your center frequency as the third, so 5 channels. Center frequency is the third channel. The first channel is the lower perigee coming at you frequencies. Then there'll be one second one in the middle, and then the 3, the 4, and the 5 going away from you. And I do have a website that talks about this in a much deeper way than I am. And it includes a couple of passes, and the way to look at this cool graph. This red line is your horizon, this diagonal red line on the graph. And then the purple line that's just slightly above it, that kind of looks like a sine wave, a little shallow sine wave, that is a really low degree pass, meaning the ISS just kind of peaked over the horizon and then kind of went back down. That's what that purple line looks like. And then at the green line, that's when it's a 63 degree pass, so a bit higher. And then that blue line is the 83 degree pass. That's where it's almost directly overhead. So for those instances where the ISS is coming higher up into the sky, almost to the point of going over your head, you may need to consider having more memory channels to handle for Doppler. However, and this is where, some of the power of the ISS and the radio they're using and the antennas is that sometimes this doesn't matter a whole lot. You can often do APRS without having to do Doppler, although some people report they get better performance if they do account for Doppler. You're going to have to try this out. I would argue that if this is your first time considering making a contact with the ISS and you're going to do APRS, get yourself a Yagi antenna, get on the center frequency, and then just wait until you hear actual packets and then send your packet. That's what I would do to start. If you want to fine-tune it to make more use of the time of the pass, then consider adding channels to, again, handle the Doppler shift. Those are just my thoughts to start. And Kawana Pardis, great point in the chat. Thank you for that. And I'm sorry if I'm...
I know for a fact them radio waves is harmful.
Butchered it. I apologize. For VHF, he said, or they say, you can usually skip the Doppler depending on the pass. Good point. Very good point. Andrew H., thank you for the super chat, the 762. Appreciate that. Longtime lurker, only a tech but love APRS, and am learning CW for HF Tech CW bands. Well, congratulations. I love that. Waiting to see if you have a SSTV thermal printer. No comment on that, but hey, what if it was what if there was something like a Raspberry Pi that you connected to a printer and it printed memes, but those memes were transmitted over SSTV automatically? How much would you pay for such a device? I'm kidding. Anyway, yeah, that's one idea that I've been playing around with. Okay. There you go. So here's my horrible drawing of this, and let me go back to the slide so you can see it. I kind of already cheesed it a bit. So we are on our obloid sphere. I don't care what you believe. That is how I'm telling this story. You're that little purple dot in the middle, and the ISS is coming overhead to the right. When it's further to the left coming at you at perigee, that's one of the furthest places it's going to be along its pass until it gets overhead. That's its lowest pass. And then as it's passing away, it's, again, going to get to its further pass. Coming at you, going away. Coming at you, going away. Hopefully that's a visualized way of looking at it for those that need it. So when it's at the leftmost spot, you're going to be lower than the center frequency as it's coming at you. And when it's at the middle, or the highest point, or not the highest point, the middle point of its pass, that's when you're going to be on center frequency. And then when it's going away from you at its furthest point, that's when you're going to be higher than. All right, tracking the ISS for contact. So I told you, program your radios, what equipment to use. Again, you can use a rubber duck antenna, although that's not optimal or the most efficient. You can do Yagi is kind of my recommendation. However, if you're thinking about APRS, build yourself a tape measure APRS. Get to work that way, right? There's lots of different ways to do this on the cheap, which is great because you probably already have a lot of the equipment to make this work. Beautiful. But we got to track the ISS. It's not simply that you just go, start fling-flanging your arm around. You actually have to have some intent to this. You have to schedule your day, if you will, around when that ISS is coming overhead. So I will mention four things. I use iOS. GoSat Watch is the application I use. I know Sean Kutzko has talked about GoSat Watch when he was on this channel. He's been talking about it a long time. I've been using it a long time. It is the application to use. Android. AMSat Watch is one that is good. I'm willing to look in the chat, and I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat. Definitely post if you've got better Android recommendations so that people watching this can take and heed your words because I'm not really an Android guy out in the field. I use my iPhone, so that's the way that goes. We are going to mention, though, in the shack, if you want to track the ISS, you can use something called Heavens Above, which is a website, which I will pull up right now. Boop, boop, boop. And we are going to track the ISS. This is the home page for Heavens Above. If we click it, we get an ad. They know me so well. Thank you. This will tell you, and this is adjustable, right? You can log in. Right now I'm anonymous, but you can log in. You can add in where you're physically located, and it will try and show you passes of when the ISS will be overhead, or good passes. You can say, I don't want anything below 10 degrees. I've got mountains on 4 sides of me and an ocean on the other side, at least in Southern California. So don't show me anything under 20 degrees, that kind of stuff. And this will give you visible passes. But if I click all, let's see. Hey, oh my gosh, just between December 5th and the 14th, we got a number of passes. And look, they're all these 10%ers. But if I drop it to visible, Christiana, N6KV, a beautiful point. You can use the geochron too. And I did talk about that on my geochron video. Among the FM satellites, I do recommend that. That's a really good thing to leave the ISS.
I know for a fact them radio waves is harmful.
But Christiana, as you may do that, I don't know that I would take my TV and drag it out into the front yard to chase it. But anyway, with Heavens Above, you can just say, what are the visible passes? And it'll give you, oh, look, there's a bunch of 10 degrees. This is not centered to me right now, so it's going to give some bad information. I do have a 24-degree pass coming up in about an hour or so. So we'll go back to the slides. Here's what that looks like. GoSat Watch is a really good example here. And this is really hard to see. That's why I added the arrows. It's really, really... What happened? Why are my arrows all screwed up? Hold on here. This is unacceptable. Unacceptable arrows are unacceptable. Okay. No, that one's off too. There you go. Now you can see the line. So what happens, you'll get something in the middle, this list of ISS passes, and it'll break it up by day. And so it'll tell you what the maximum degree is, right, of the pass. So this one that I missed at 11:49 a.m. was a 64-degree pass. That's pretty good. Tonight at 6:22, which is the one I said now 40 minutes, is going to be 25 degrees. Not great, but I'll take what I can get. And then let's see, when is the big one? Sunday is a 65-degree pass, and that's the one that is on the Sunday showing. If you look to the left, that is an 81-degree pass. That's where it's almost directly overhead. The ISS is going to pass right overhead. And then on the right, that is a 42-degree pass. If you can see the boxes on the bottom of each screenshot, it's going to show the rise and fall degree, which just always assume 10 degrees is fine, or that big mountain that you can't see over. And at its highest point, or I'm sorry, at the midpoint where you are basically, or where you're looking, is going to be 42 or whatever is in the middle box there. Okay, and then that's a low side one on the far left. That's what a 10 degree looks like. It's very, you can barely make any kind of contact with that. Smeggy42 in the chat. Smeggy, you technically can maybe go rewatch the beginning of this. You can. There are astronauts. They generally do contacts with school projects or this school program that they have. They rarely get on the radio, or occasionally is what I would say, and there's no set schedule, so it's kind of random. You'd have to be just really paying attention to what they're doing out there. Okay, so that is my last slide, and the one thing that I didn't mention, which I'm going to show you right now, is Ham Radio Deluxe. Ham Radio Deluxe is actually a really cool tool for doing satellite radio, and I'm going to show you a couple things on that right now. Let me clear the space here. I need another monitor. Here we go. Okay. So this is SSTV. I'll move that. So we've got a pass. Looks like coming up here. It is, where are we? 36 minutes out. You can see that. It's kind of hard for you guys to see. I can appreciate. Let me hide the stream for a second. The stream comments. Okay. So above my head is the pertinent info. The two black boxes above the map is going to show the center frequencies for receive and transmit. And then next to them is the auto Doppler correction that the application is doing for the radio. Above that is going to be, let's see, what I have selected, which is the ISS. And if you slide to the right of that, you'll see an AOS, which is when the ISS technically is going to be in view from a horizon line only. If the Earth was perfectly not mountainous and just the obloid spheroid that it is, without a mountain, it would be rising at the 10-degree spot. In my case, though, the direction that the ISS would be rising from is directly over the San Gabriel Mountains, so I may completely not be able to see this pass at all. Regardless, this application will adjust frequency to and control the radio, which, again, if I go back here, so you can see it's adjusting frequency, and it is adjusting frequency right there. You can see it on the receive side. If you'd like to know how to do this, I did a whole standalone video just explaining how to do this for the 705. And it doesn't have to be the 705. It could be a 9700 or any radio that you have cat control capability with. All right. Let's pull up that SSTV now. Let's go back. So SSTV is a software title that I use for doing SSTV. Where are we going? Boop, boop, boop. There it is. All right, this is the app. This is a free app. It's pretty old. It's kind of old and busted in a couple of ways, but it still works. So that's why I use it. Anyway, you can make this as complicated or as simple as you want. In the case of just receiving SSTV images from the ISS, it really doesn't need to be that complicated. So generally what you'll do, start her up, go to Option, go to Set Up SSTV, click it. This pop-up menu will come up, and you will have a sound card in, again, assuming you've got your radio connected to your computer, right? That's kind of important. If you can do that, then you just point it to your sound card. And this could be as simple as your little USB sound card, right? It could be your Baofeng, right? You just have an aux cable for the speaker out of your Baofeng into one of those little Sabrent USB cards. Slap that into the side of your computer, and you point this application to it, and you go, c'est la vie, I'm done. Then you need to select the type. Which type do they use? Wasn't it PD120? Where's PD120? It's not necessarily in the list here, so I leave it on auto. That's not what I recommended on the slides. You should set PD120, but I just leave it on auto, I guess, in this case. Where is PD? Is that... Well, that's frustrating. Anyway. So leave it on auto in the case of MSTV, but PD120 is the mode they use for SSTV. Anyway, once that signal gets picked up by your radio, your application will switch over to the appropriate mode and then decode the image. All right. Lastly, what did I want to talk about before we close out? Yes. Over on the Discord, which, by the way, we're going to try. Hopefully everybody is going to try outside of me, because I probably won't be able to hear it from my QTH at 24 degrees, the pass that is in 32 minutes. But hopefully everybody that can will join the Discord and talk about it, what they're going to be working on. Before I kicked off the live stream, I went ahead and asked everybody in the chat, drop their satellite or ISS station. And we got one from A. Baker. Looks just like mine, bud. That's like the same antenna and the same radio, except yours hasn't been kicked down the driveway. So good for you. AI5BX, though, looking cute in my jammies is the username. Showing off. That is a full full ZL and X antenna. So it will turn, the antenna will rotate and then pivot, or X, Y, and Z. That is the dream, right? That is kind of the dream antenna for satellites. What's great about that is Cute in My Jammies doesn't have to sit there and hold it and turn it. You plug it into your computer, and Ham Radio Deluxe above me and other applications will do the adjusting for you. Beauty. There you go. That's a 50 receive and transmit. So SO50 is what I'm assuming. Another D72 fan. By the way, Adam K6ARK picked up a D72 in Huntsville. That was a big score. Good price on that. Keep an eye out on those, by the way. Guys, if anybody finds a THD72 for what I would say is sub $300, buy it. Because you may not want it. Someone will want it, and they will pay you more money for it. There's one of very few full duplex radios on the market. There is your ICOM in a box or a bag. Also another shack that looks like... What happened? Did Discord die? What happened? There we go. This is another cool... Oh, that's the fault. So we got a Aero Antenna. So this is really prominent. You can see this a lot easier. For everybody new to Yagis like this is a dual band Yagi. The really long purple pieces are for the 2-meter band. And the really short pieces that are stacked up, like a lot of those little purple pieces, that's 70 centimeters. There's your dual band Yagi. And they're offset, right? So it's like an X. So that radio connects to that antenna. Very good. Not much of a shack. Oh, there you go. So D72, I'm noticing a trend. D72 and a Aero Antenna in the backyard. And a micro Bidex to the right. That's his HF station. Looks pretty good. Right on. That's the satellite station? Who posted this? Nyla Thotep. Great. Posted this. That's the satellite station. There you go. And a bit of talk there on some HTs. Another D72 and an Aero. Yep. And a bug. So I'm assuming they're lurking those linear sats. Okay. Well, there you go. Cool. All right. I'll take some questions if we have questions in the chat, and I will... Yeah, we'll just take questions because we're going to wrap things up here in a little bit. But this is one of those topics where I'm not going to get everything right. I know it because there's just tons of stuff I forget. But I do know a lot of good people in this area. By the way, if there aren't already some of them in the chat, a big shout out to Satellite Twitter. I don't know how better to call them, but there's a lot of really active ham radio satellite enthusiasts that are on Twitter. And if you, and this is how you find them. It's really simple. It's really simple. You just make a tweet that says, I'm thinking about buying an egg beater antenna. And that they'll hear it. They'll get a notification. It's a special setting on Ham Alert that they get egg beater antenna, and then they converge and they all protect you from that purchase. At least that's what I believe their function is. Anyway, if you at me, Ham Radio Crash Course in the chat, we can try and get some questions going. Let's see. Chad, KD9EXW ask if this is live. Yes, it is live. I wanted to build an egg beater. Don't do it. Don't tell Twitter about it. They'll come for you. There you go. TX Fisher, good comment. Satellite Twitter has a digital net Wednesday nights. Very good. Matt Denny asked, does magnitude matter with satellites? Be more specific. What type of magnitude? Meaning their prominence in the sky? I mean, yes, if you can hit them with your RF, then that's what you want. Yeah, J Project says, wanted to throw out there, you can work the ISS with 15 watts and a magnetic mount for low passes. 50 watts and same antenna for high passes. There you go. Scott Howie, wonderful, Hovey, wonderful question. Let me turn the chat back on. In fact, I'll just go back to me for a little bit. Scott Hovey says, why are there so few full duplex HTs on the market? A wonderful question. I don't know. I'm assuming, well, here's my total just hypothetical. Kenwood had a very popular radio in the THD-72. Did I say that right? Yeah. THD-72, the one that we've been talking about, the one that everybody has in the shack pictures that were shown. That is a full duplex radio with APRS capability. However, when they released the D-74, they replaced full duplex capability and we picked up D-Star, a digital mode. It's possible that that was a discrete piece of space that was in that case that Kenwood had a cost-value breakdown on should we add a feature of a digital mode like D-Star or should we maintain our full duplex. And they had a discussion and said we got to go with the digital mode because there's going to be more customers. Therefore, we'll sell more. Oh. Stephen Emert and Matt Denny came back. Magnitude in this case is brightness, going back to his question. I don't believe so. I don't believe that the magnitude is important. Somebody correct me in the chat. ISS is in high pass is really bright, brighter than Jupiter. Oh, as far as like, yeah, because the sun's reflecting off of it. Yeah, it's bright as heck. You can see it. It's great. I love, like, by the way, that's always a fun party trick. When you go to a party, just do this, right? Just do this. Go to when you go to the restroom, whatever, pull out GoSat Watch or one of those apps and see if there's an ISS pass. You'd be surprised. There's probably like an ISS pass of some prominence, 50 degrees or higher, that you can just be like, hey, guys, you want to see the most amazing thing you'll see all night? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, Siri, remind me. Set an alarm for 10 minutes. And then just don't say anything more about it. Right? Just don't say anything more. And then the alarm goes off and goes, come with me. Come with me. And then you walk outside and you go, look at this. Just don't look at your phone or anything like while you're doing. Don't be all nerd like, okay, it should be like right here. Just do this all in the bathroom beforehand. The pass is going to come from the north and it's going to go to the east, southeast. Super party trick. You'll slay. For all you single guys out there, you know who you're going to thank for that one. Let's see. I'm not sold on digital mode. I can use Echolink for free. Sure, but that's not RF, right? Kevin K3KTB, what is a reasonable price for full duplex HT? So the D72 is probably still like the best radio you could buy. Seriously, in this space, and if you pay under $300 for it, I think you got a good deal. Yeah, straight up. So that's the other thing. I didn't talk about this. We got to have Sean back for that kind of stuff because he's going to know much more about this than I do. I know that a lot of people are moving towards mobile radios. Moving is the wrong word. I know there are people out there that do use mobile radios because they're effective and they're useful for satellite contacts because they're full duplex, right? There's a ton that are capable of being able to do that. But you got to step up to mobile radio prices, particularly like FTM 400 is one people are using. Heck, there's people out there that use two 817s or 818s from Yaesu, but that's more for the linear sat stuff. But it will work for ISS as well. But it's not full duplex. W8MTB, there is one clarification. They say there is no full duplex handheld currently in production. There is the Wushun KG whatever 9 blah 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 mate. It's not full duplex in that it can do VHF UHF or UHF VHF, and what I mean by that is VHF uplink or UHF uplink, and then VHF uplink or UHF downlink. The switching for that it only does one versus the other, and I am not prepared to answer that question. But we talked about it when Sean was on the show the last time. So there you go. Just watch for dockable amplifiers to come out for our HTs. Come on. Andrew H., why do you want a dockable amplifier to put next to your face that you're going to talk on? That sounds like a horrible idea. Get yourself a... So, guys, everybody that's like, we got to throw amplifiers on our HTs. HT antennas are horribly inefficient. Get yourself a good Yagi, and then you're going to take all those 5 watts and focus them and create a focused beam of RF. That's way better. You could pick up... You know, this is a really good way of looking at this. For all the hundreds of dollars that you would spend on an amplifier for an HT, go buy yourself a Yagi. It is going to be cheaper than an amplifier, and it's going to be much more effective. So there you go. There's my hot take. Hot take. All right. I think... Uh-oh. Did my stream just die? What just happened? What happened? Am I here? What? What just happened? Oh, Lord. Am I still there? Give me something in the chat, because I think it's dead. It died. In and out. That's weird. It's still flipped out on the other side. Band is fading. Band is fading, guys. Band is fading. Okay, I think it's back. Okay. Whew. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Again, we've got 24 minutes until the ISS pass that starts north of California, right, as most of them do. And so you might be able to get in on this if you want to have some fun. Join us over on the Discord after chat. I will be live streaming to Twitch, but I've got to end this so I can go wrap that up. This was a Patrons Picks episode, and this being December is the end of the year. I do want to, again, mention my wonderful wife with the website that she did. Thank you so much for Give It the Beans coffee, available now. If you want a good stocking stuffer, that's the thing to do. But let me throw it over to say thanks to the patrons. So
I know for a
Patron
fact
Picks
them
is
radio
normally
waves
something
is harmful.
for the higher tier of the patrons. And December, we always just open it up and let everybody vote. And this topic was the #1 topic. It got more votes than anything that I've posted in a long time. So there's definitely a ton of you that are super passionate about this type of amateur radio operation, and rightfully so. It's a lot of fun. So I will take that as a hint that I should do more stuff on this in this space. I really do appreciate watching, and we have way more views than we normally do. So thank you so much for watching on the super chat or on the YouTubes and sending the super chats. If this was enjoyable, consider joining our Discord. We have a lot of satellite enthusiasts over there and other amateur radio enthusiasts. And our after chat is both text and voice, and we'll be trying to get that ISS contact. I don't think I will be able to, though, because the peak is 24 degrees, and that's not going to be high enough for me. Oh, man. All right, questions in the chat. You keep them coming. Want to say thanks again to the patrons. And a happy holidays to everybody, because we're peak holiday time, which is always the busiest time of my life. I'm never busier than when I am holiday season, because you got holiday parties, you're planning parties with people because you're a manager, and then you've got deadlines that are coming up. It's just crazy. Are you going to do a Will It Tune this year? I do. I have a holiday antenna. Yes, sir, I do. And I am being more ambitious than I've ever been before in this antenna. I have no idea how it's going to work. I think I need to buy some 811 tubes, too. I think I might have to do that. Are we on the 4th of December? I don't know if they'll arrive on time. Yeah, I think you're right, Sterling. All right. Thank you, patrons. Appreciate it very much. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm heading over to Discord. The fun doesn't stop now. You just got to go join me on Discord or just follow me on Twitch. Ham Radio Crash Course on Twitch. I'll be live streaming on there shortly after I end this live stream. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And if you haven't been considering or haven't had the push to go make some ISS contacts, hopefully this was it and we see you out there. All right. I am Josh, KI6NAZ. You've been watching the Ham Radio Crash Course, and I'll talk to you later. Give me those thumbs up and subscribe. See ya. Hey, there it is, the 9700 portable. Do you think he's putting the full 100 watts through that thing? Love it. Smeggy, I don't do Twitch. Oh, poor Smeggy. I'm just kidding, buddy. It's good to see you out there. Hey, I need new memes. If you're a meme contractor, join us on the Discord. Go to Ham Memes and upload yours. New memes needed. As always looking for memes. That's still one of my favorite, though, the GPS dongle. That also is one of my favorites. All right, that's it.